Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I thought we'd do a little tutorial on mountain building using the wet into wet technique. I realize there's probably, I don't know, probably a million videos out there on the internet on how to do this particular thing using a palette knife, but hey, we'll make this the million and one example. So why don't we go ahead and get started. So I've got this this liquid white. Let's make sure you can see this. This is a Grumbacher brand liquid white, but Bob Ross also makes liquid white. Or if you need to, you could use titanium white with a little linseed oil. So I'm going to start by putting a thin, even coat of this on my canvas here. And I'm just using a small canvas today since this is just a demonstration. But I'm going to use a 2-inch brush and dipping down into my liquid white, and I'm going to go up here and put a thin even coat of liquid white on this canvas, just kind of using a crisscross brush stroke. I go like this, and it kind of helps to spread the paint out. Got my palette hanging here on the easel rattling around, but hopefully I don't spread a bunch of liquid white across it. So let's take that off there. It's making a bunch of racket. Let's move that out of the way. Just kind of looking here. And what I usually do is, once I've got this liquid white on the canvas, I'll stand off to the side and kind of look across the canvas, and if I see a dull area, that probably means that I missed a place, so I'll go back over it. And if you do miss a place, it's not necessarily that big a deal, but when you start putting paint over top of it, the paint will have a tendency to drag. So I'll show you a good way to check to make sure you got a pretty good coat on your canvas is I'll just take my finger. I'm gonna wipe some paint off of it. My hands, I've already got paint all over me. But I'll take my finger and just kind of touch. And if you look, hopefully you can see that. Let me get it in front of the camera there. There we go. You can still see your fingerprint on this. So I'll take there, touch, go down here and touch. Same deal. Over here in the corner and touch. Same deal. And maybe my pinky finger up there in the corner so you can see there. All of them kind of covered about evenly, maybe even hit my thumb there in the middle. Now that came back a little thin, but I still think I got enough paint on there to do the job. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I go back over to get rid of my fingerprints on this. And let me show you what I've got on the palette. I've already kind of got this set up, and I used it earlier, so it's kind of a mess right now. But I've got titanium white. I've got Midnight Black, which is a Bob Ross brand. You can use ivory black or like carbon black, that sort of thing too. I've got Prussian blue, which is a dark blue. I've got phthalo blue, which is a little lighter blue. And then I've got Van Dyke brown here. And hopefully you can kind of get an idea of what these look like. And I apologize for the glare on the palette. I'm just kind of working out the glitches right now, but we'll get that sorted out as we go along at some point. So I'm going to grab that same 2-inch brush that I had, and I'm going to go up into this phthalo blue, and I'm going to put just kind of a little simple background sky, just because I don't want to try to paint a mountain on a pure white canvas. It'll look kind of weird. So if you can see, I don't have a ton of paint on this, just a little bit, and I'm just kind of tapping into this phthalo blue. And the reason I tap into it is it spreads the paint out across the bristles, so you don't have huge clumps of paint on your brush, and you get kind of some surprises on your canvas that you didn't necessarily want. So same deal, I'm just doing a crisscross stroke. And remember when I told you it was a little bit thin there in the middle? Paint's dragging just a little bit there because I don't have quite as much liquid white on it, but you can work your way through it. If you just keep brushing it, it'll eventually cover. But the reason we do put down the liquid white is it just makes the paint flow so nice across the canvas, and just makes it easier to get the paint on the canvas. And you're layering a wet layer of paint over top of another wet layer of paint. So it's called the wet into wet or wet on wet technique. and it's just a great way to learn to paint. So that's probably good enough there. So I'm going to just kind of leave that, and I'm going to find a palette knife here somewhere. My palette knife. I use a large palette knife. You could use a smaller one in different configurations, but this one kind of works okay for me. Okay, what I'm going to do is mix up some mountain color. And I just want a dark color. It might lean toward blue. That's my goal. So I'm going to take a little bit of this midnight black, put it over here somewhere. Hopefully I hold it up where you can see it. I'm going to go with some of that Prussian blue. And I don't need a ton of this, but I'll mix it right in with that black. And then I'm going to throw a little bit of brown in it. The Van Dyke brown. Usually when you take like a Prussian blue and a Van Dyke brown, you'll get this kind of a bluish gray color, which I like a lot. Let me put a little bit more of that Prussian blue in here. I always call it, like, I don't know, gun barrel blue or something along that line. Now you can see this is quite dark, and it's kind of, I'll hold it up there against the canvas so you get an idea of what it looks like. This is very dark. And I didn't mix up much of it because I don't need much, but I just kind of scoop it up like so, put it back down, scoop it up, put it back down, and that'll probably do the trick. Now, if you're not sure what your color is leaning toward, a lot of times I'll just take my finger here, and if you like to wear gloves when you're painting, then do that. I've kind of never actually got in the habit of doing that, but you know, it helps to keep the paint off your hands and that sort of thing if it's something you prefer to wear. So I just kind of touch into my color here and sneak up into this white, and you can see what that's leaning toward here. Hopefully you can see that. It's kind of a grayish blue, which I like, and that's what I was shooting for. So I'm gonna pick my palette knife back up, and I'm gonna go back into this color I just mixed right here. I'm gonna pull it out like so. Okay, and then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go in at a right angle and take it, just kind of slide off diagonally like that. Hopefully you could see that. Let me do it one more time for you. Pull it out so you can kind of see it. So I'm like this, and I'm going to take my knife and slide off like that diagonally. And if you can see here, hopefully you can see that, it puts a kind of a thin, even bead of paint on your knife. Now you don't want it all scraggly. In other words, don't go like this and have a mess in there like that, because it won't go on the canvas like you want it to. So again, out like so. Let the knife kind of slide off diagonally, and it gets you a nice little, pretty even bead of paint on there. So let's go up here and just kind of decide where we're going to place a mountain. When I was learning how to paint like this, they always told me, don't put your main peak of your mountain right in the middle of the canvas, because it kind of divides the canvas in half. And back when I was first learning, I thought, who cares? But now if I do that, it kind of does bug me, because it just splits your canvas in half. So I'll start my main peak over here or over there. And since I'm right-handed, I tend to kind of gravitate toward the left, oddly enough. Just kind of works out well for me. Let me show you, while I'm thinking about it also, how I hold the knife. So let me get in front of here where you can see this and get my fat head out of the way. But this is how I hold the knife. I've got, 3 fingers, pinky finger's just kind of out there. 3 fingers and my thumb like this. If you were left-handed, you would hold it like this. Okay, so I'm going to go up in my canvas and decide where I want to put my first peak. Now, a lot of people will put their finger right here on the knife as they're doing this. It doesn't really matter when you're putting the initial layer of paint down, but once we start putting highlight and shadow in here, then putting your finger up here might not give you the result you want. So let's go ahead and get started here. So we'll just kind of decide here. Let's say, this looks like a good place. So let's go right here. Put a couple little humps and bumps on him. Reload my knife real quick. Let's go over this way. I don't want to put too many on here, not too many of the humps and bumps initially, because the more we put on here, the more we have to highlight, and we're just kind of learning right now. So let's make it easy. Maybe I'll peak him up just a little bit more so he's not quite so boring, like so. But remember, the more you put on here, the more you have to highlight and shadow. Not that that's a bad thing, but when you're first getting used to it, you want to kind of watch it. Now, here's what I like to avoid. You notice here I got a peak, and a peak. These are almost the same height, so it kind of looks like a king's crown or something to that effect. So I'm going to take this just because and raise that up just a little bit more so it's not so uniform there. It's just, you know, one of those things. I don't like the symmetry so much. So, all right, let me stick my palette over here right now just to kind of get him out of the way. And I'm going to grab that 1-inch brush we were working with, or that 2-inch rather, and I'm going to go up in here. Let's do this first though. Let's scrape away excess paint. Hit my easel, about ready to knock my canvas in the floor. That would be good. I've done it before. Knocked it in the floor one time and stepped on it. That made it nice. Okay, I scraped away the excess paint, but I didn't go up here to the top and scrape away that. I want to leave that in there. Leave that line up at the top. Just scrape away excess down below the peak of your mountain. Then I'm going to take my 2-inch brush and kind of pull across like this. And notice as I go down, I kind of level off right down there. Same on this side. Come down and let it level off like this. Now the reason you do that is because you want to show the illusion of some distance in your painting. If I just took my brush and went straight down like this, then it would look like the mountain was right on top of me. So if you're looking at a mountain from across a field or from across a lake or whatever, you'll see most of the mountain and you'll see that part of it where it levels off. So that's what you want to do. So I've got that, and I'm going to grab my palette knife again, wipe the mountain color I had off of it, and I'm going to grab my palette and get that thing out of the way that I keep running into. And I'm going to go into just some straight titanium white here. So if you see this, and again, I apologize for the glare there, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'll hold it up against, maybe against the mountain there, you can see. So I'm going to pull this paint out like this. Same deal with my knife. Let it slide across it diagonally, and it puts a bead of paint on here. Hopefully you can see that. Now that's a little thicker than I want because this is, again, I'm using a small canvas, so I don't need quite that much paint. So I'm going to go back in and just run it across again like that, and just put a little smaller bead of paint on here. Hopefully, again, you can see that. So I'm going to go up here on my mountain, and I'm going to start with the tallest peak. And if you look, like I mentioned before, if you put your finger on the knife blade like this, now if you're really, really good, maybe you can do that, but I can't. If I put my finger on the knife blade, I have a tendency to press too hard on the canvas with the knife, and I don't get the effect I want. So what I want to do is go up here, right at the tallest peak, that's usually where I start, and I'll just let the knife touch. As soon as I feel it touch, I'm just going to drop it down and let it kind of skirt off to the right like this. If you were left-handed, using your left hand, you could do it and go that way. Okay, and you got to think about where you want your light source too. I'm going to have my light source coming this way, which I usually do, but you don't have to. And let's go up here and just kind of get started here. So I'm right there, touch, and just kind of let it go off like this. Now, it's going to kind of do what it wants to do, and you can't just worry it to death. I'm going to take this next peak, same deal, like this, go here, but you can't go over it a million times. If you do, you'll lose that breaking effect on your paint, and it just won't look good. Okay, so I've got this, and I've done, oh, I don't know what, 2, 3, 4 knife strokes. Let's do a little bit right here just because we want to. And it looked like it could use a little. And maybe just one more thing here, just because I'm being a little picky here. Maybe a little bit right there where it was showing a little darker than I wanted it to. Now, as I look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 5 peaks here. So a lot of times I'll do something just so it isn't, you know, everything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, just to make it interesting. I might, just because, kind of fill this in right here. Now, I just made life a little harder for myself because now I got to go in there with some shadow, which is a little tricky. But I think we can handle it. I'm going to go back up in here, and I'm going to take, some of that mountain base color, and I'm going to mix it in with some of the white and get kind of a shadow color here. Not too dark, but dark enough that it shows some contrast with the highlight color. So I'm gonna take it, load my knife again, come up in here and just pick a place, and I'm gonna pull the opposite direction. It looks like I got a little extra white in there. Let's go back over that to darken it down. There we go. Like so. And load up a little more. Like so. A little more here, maybe on this big one here, it'll be a little easier. Mix up a little bit more of that shadow color. Again, using the white and a little bit of that mountain base color we mixed. Pull it out like this. And you can put a little more pressure on this. Now I'm going to use, there's a small part of my knife, if you can see that there. I'm kind of pointing at my thumb, but that top flat piece of the knife, I'm going to use that and load up my knife. And I'm going to go up in here just with that part and kind of touch in here and kind of sneak a little paint in there. It's a little tricky, but we'll get it. And, oh, I could probably put a little bit right here. And just as a finishing touch, I'm going to go back in, and I can use this 2-inch brush. We'll use this again. But I'm going to go back in and just kind of pull down a little bit here. Maybe like this, kind of like petting a cat. Like so. I'm pulling that paint out at the bottom just to haze it out a little bit. Don't go all the way up in here. You want to leave that nice looking paint effects up in there. But maybe here at the bottom, just pulling it out a little bit. Like so. And that's how we do a mountain. So hopefully you were able to paint along with me, or you can go back and replay it and paint along later, and we'll do another tutorial soon. Maybe we'll do some trees.